Welcome, everybody, to our Sacred Self-Healing Training Call with the topic, the nature of darkness. Number 5 in our Karmic Manifestation series for this year. And I want to warn you that you are going to learn quite a bit here today about concepts that are normally not discussed, and I cannot share this with the public, so this is only going to be a recording for Sacred Self-Healing members. This corresponds with step 23, which is not published yet, as you know, and there's a barrier here. Okay, so we're going to review the karmic manifestation principles only in the sense that we're applying them now. You know what the difference is between karma and conditioning and true desire, and versus our drives that pushes us forward, our inner alignment and congruence. All these things, barriers, mindsets, boundaries, conscious choice, soul connection. Today we're going to apply them, and this will be surprising to some of you, and I hope that you have a lot of questions. I've received a few questions up front, which I hope will be answered here through this webinar today. If not, please resort to the link in the forum that allows you to ask questions afterwards. Obviously, heart warriors get to to have discussions about this with me anyway, and many of you may have already heard me talk to you about these things. So when it comes to the nature of darkness, guys, we have to look at, sort of the level of darkness. What are dark forces? What are these entities that play into it? How does this physically manifest? How does this come into our world? Where do we see this in our society? Yeah, and also what the role of energy management is quite important, because when we want to really sort of get a grip on, how to manifest more positivity in our life and more power, so to speak, yeah, like the true sort of goals that we have and purpose in our life. There's a lot of things here that we've worked out together already in the past, yeah, that come in, and I think we have a little bit of me getting kicked out. Is that correct? Is there some okay?
Yeah, sometimes you just stop it. There's a block. Can't hear you.
Yeah, I can't see this from my end. Some sound block. Yeah, I guess you're right. Okay, please let me know, guys. I'm just seeing like sort of the green on my microphone thing going in and out. So let's review those real quick. Manifestation values. Okay, those are things that fundamentally manifest positive things in our life, positive energies, positive developments. Yeah, so let me start off here with asking you right away, like, what are these things that you, as sort of seasoned sacred self-healing or sacred self-healer and consciousness seeker, what you have found out in your life that are definitely helping in this transformation process that we call healing? Healing basically, is a removing of all imbalances, a removing of the things that align us to, pain and suffering and victimhood, powerlessness, and transform those into love, beauty, and so forth. What are some things that you guys have already found out, sort of as life wisdom, okay, that helps you to stay on track, to keep being aligned, to maintain your integrity, to stay motivated? What are some things that you've already, this doesn't need to correspond with any of the things that you see here on the screen, but what are some of the things that you found out? that help you to stay positive, if you will. Yeah, that help you to form this sort of natural immunity to darkness from within and around you. Who wants to share?
Hi, Jona, I can share something.
Hi.
This is Abigail. Hi. One of the things that popped into my head is that things aren't about performance, that life isn't about performance and like beginnings and endings and that kind of thing. That there's a different reason for being alive. That helped me a lot because it helped me let go of some of those performance-driven things that I was very fixated on.
So yes, that this is a very good point. You were fixated on performance. What is this fixation on performance? What's that? What level of being would you attribute that to? Like what is the perspective or the life view if you make everything depend or if you make your attitude to it life depend on performance? What level do you see that at?
Well, quite an exhausting level. Like, so I suppose like very physical, like because it's always about achieving something, achieving like a goal, and it's always well, invariably it's about somebody else's goal or my desire to kind of meet a particular standard or ideal or expectation, which it might feel like it's coming from me, but ultimately it probably didn't originate from me. So
What would
physical
you
and
say?
in the mind.
Yeah, physical and what do you say? Sorry.
In the mind. Yeah.
What would you say here that where in your body do you feel this most? You mentioned something about your nervous system, but
Yeah. Probably the nerves. No. I felt for me, I found it very physical, very exhausting because it literally felt very physical because it always meant making an effort, and invariably that would mean making a physical effort, whether that was working on a computer computer screen or so it's always about putting in the number of hours and doing more work as if like more work would help you get wherever you wanted
but
to
it's not
go. Or
necessarily labor, right? It's not necessarily like on the skeletal or muscular level. It's more sort of on a gland level, right? Like the adrenals. You're constantly sort of like on fire. You constantly like you're pushing yourself. Yeah.
Are the adrenals related to the nerve system?
Yes, they're very important glands. Yes, but
Okay, yeah.
they're related to the nervous system in the sense that they produce the biochemicals, if you will, that then impact the nervous system. Okay, so the glands is the level on which these hormones and neurotransmitters are being produced. Yeah, where like say adrenaline is being produced. Yeah, or dopamine. Yeah, or all the other stress hormones. Yeah, so you're talking about stress hormones, right? You feel that there's a constant sort of tension in you. Yeah, it's not directly the nervous system right away. It then affects the nervous system. Yeah, because the nervous system then responds to constant, say, overstimulation of the glands with certain coping mechanisms. Yeah, or with imbalances. We will get to that here in a second, but I wanted you all to feel this, to feel a little deeper into that. So performance is a big issue that you have or sort of counterbalancing in your sort of willingness to work with this as sacred self-healer. What else? What else helps you to stay on track? Or if you will, you can also point out what keeps you off track or what gets to you, what prevents or hinders. So Janet here is sharing proper rest, diet, and having financial income. Yeah, so proper rest, diet. So that's all, again, biochemical level, financial income, everything that has to do, like sort of the first chakra stuff, right? So first and second chakra stuff that can influence you overall. that has a lot to do with our way of perceiving ourselves in this sort of visceral, physical way, right, Janet? I mean, that's if you don't sleep enough, if you don't eat good food and these things, right, then the way you perceive yourself and how your senses function, yeah, is very distorted a lot of times. Yeah, first chakra health. The aspect of good food, and to a degree also rest is second chakra, but it's this red orange, yeah, where they both go hand in hand. I think I understand. So this is a more of an influence here on the level of like how your body can function per se. So performance is a it's not the same level. Performance is where you drive your body to function in a certain way. But what you are referring to, Janet, are the fundamentals of how your body functions, how your senses function, how you perceive your physical reality. Very good. What else? Cindy is, oops, sorry, go ahead.
Hi, it's Annette.
Hi, Annette.
Hi. What keep me on track and really important for me is sharing and talking with other people about things and all kind of stuff, and because sharing and I can't explain, but
it's connection, right? Yeah,
yes,
it's connection.
yeah, exactly. When I go alone and think a lot, and it's not good for me, so it's really important for me.
Now, and this is very true, Annette. If you remember back, maybe at times where you didn't have this, where would this affect you the most?
Fear, my fear, and I think it's I had a lot of fear, and when I share and talk with other people, it helps me a lot.
Also, how you see them, right? It also plays into how you see them and how they see you, right? So the more we connect, obviously, the more we know how other people feel about us.
Yeah, it's right.
If we don't, then there's a lot of like, what if, and what if they think this and this of me and so forth, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of projection there. If we don't connect, if we always sort of guess or assume, right? So connection helps on two levels. It helps on the level of taking out the fear and the nervousness, the overall sort of uncertainty, because you feel much more, well, you feel connected, and in that you feel also more supported to a degree, even if you just discuss things and people disagree with you, it doesn't matter, but you feel like there's an exchange. You don't have to guess, you don't have to assume, you don't have to project.
Yeah, and I also think I can better feel things.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a lower level of connection that you first mentioned, and that is the level of safety, where you feel just sort of it's very simple, not simple as an ordinary, but simple as in profound sort of sense of belonging. Sense of belonging, right? So those are two different levels of connection. So there's the just the fact that you know that you're not alone. That's a very simple sense of connection. And then this, like the higher sense of connection is really connecting with people on this sort of feeling level where it's more clear to you how they feel, you get to express how you feel. And then there is an even higher level of connection, as we all know, and that is when you really feel connected with someone on a soul level. Yeah, when there's something like a recognition almost, right? But I guess it's clear by now that this higher level of connection that we always kind of strive for requires us to have these lower levels of connections first, right? We have to be good at that. Yeah, if we don't feel safe with other people, if we see people as hostile or potentially threatening, well, it's going to affect us quite severely, right? And it's affecting us. I don't know. Do you remember where it affected you the most physically?
In my first and second chakra, I think.
Yeah, but more overall, like how would you call your overall your overall sort of a state? Were you calm or were you more nervous and anxious?
Nervousness. Nervousness.
Nervous and anxious, right?
Yeah.
You said fear, right? You said
Yeah.
fear in the beginning. So there's this constant, again here there's a guessing and sort of a fear that that things
not
might.
feeling good enough. Not feeling good enough. Yeah.
So obviously these things they kind of overlap a little bit, right? So the performance comes in with that as well, and obviously things like good food, good sleep, the fundamental physical condition. These things all go hand in hand, but they do affect us in different ways. So the connection affects us in our nervous system. Yeah, it's a reason why, for example, so many talk about, including myself, really working with the vagus nerve, yeah, which is the antidote, the remedy for nervousness, yeah, for this fight, flight, or freeze. Yeah, so fight, flight, or freeze is an autonomous nervous response. Yeah, it means that it's automatic. Yeah, and that's also where our habits and our coping patterns are located. Yeah, yeah, because we're in this constant sort of reactionary kind of place with things, and when we connect more, and not just with people, but also with Annette is bringing this in here, the others are Annette, with animals, with nature, and for some also with children. It brings even a deeper level of connection back, yeah, and doesn't just calm our nervous system, it calms our heart, our blood pressure, our ability to breathe and to live, our aliveness. It brings back our vitality. Yeah, so there's more here. It affects us on different levels. So connection, sort of the fundamental levels of connection, they calm our nervous system. Yeah, and the higher levels of connection, they do even more to us. They calm our overall state of being. Yeah, they calm our vitality, our ability to breathe. Yeah, when we think of connecting with nature, think of all the new habits that come in. Yeah, so when we connect more with nature, when we connect more with animals, it's usually also higher levels of activity. Yeah, so we bring in higher levels of healing. Yeah, through connecting with those other, not just people, but also beings, if you will. Yeah, so there's a spiritual connection that we're starting to feel. And then Cindy, here you are sharing that there is something that keeps you on track is the knowing that you have a choice and having the courage to be curious. So this has to do with wisdom. This has to do with a reality, yeah, that is beyond, say, our five senses, that is beyond our neurotransmitters and hormones, yeah, the glandular sort of expression, and that's even beyond our nervous system. Knowing to have a choice, yeah, and the sort of the courage. I almost want to call this, Cindy, I don't know if you agree with me, but what you're talking about here sounds a lot like faith and hope to me. Is that what you're referring to? Knowing that you have a choice, knowing that there's something out there, and having the courage to really align to that.
Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't have picked those words, but yes, absolutely.
So I want to add this here. This is a new level of sort of positive manifestation things, yeah. Expansion and flow. Hang on, where do I have this? Boundaries. So this also has to do with boundaries here. We need to know what the boundaries are. And even though most people at first think that boundaries are something restrictive, they actually aren't. Because if you know exactly what your boundaries are, you don't need to guess that much. Development and refinement, let's put this together, because that's fundamentally, you know, healing, if you will, transforming something. And we just found out that, you know, things such as hope and faith, yeah, and clarity to a degree, right? I mean, like more courage, hope, faith, courage. You guys know. Does anybody know what hope? Oops, I just almost gave it away. What hope, faith, and courage stands for, or how in English language we sometimes refer to them? Think of three daughters.
Hope, faith, and charity.
Yeah, charity is
I'm thinking of the Gaia Sophia.
You're thinking of the three graces.
The three graces, yes.
Those are called the graces of humanity. Yeah, a grace. Yeah, that's what you're referring to, Cindy. So here we are now, already with a huge list of remedies, of things that can help us internally on different levels, yeah, and to stay on track, to transform something, to counteract something. Today, I want to break this down for you on what level they work and how they work. This is extremely important for you to understand darkness in and around you, and it is simultaneously also very important for you so that you can understand what true energy management is really about. Now, let me ask you here just real quick before I go into this sort of structural work. Energy management, what does that stand for you guys? What have you all, I mean, you've done so many you know, modalities, the sacred self-healing, the ergyCourse, some of you. What are you understanding under energy management? What does this mean to you? Or how does it help you? Hi.
Hi, it's Annette. To make a choice, a different choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. So energy management has taught you that you have a choice. What exactly? What can you choose? On the simplest level, if you will.
To change, if I'm emotional,
Okay, you can change whichever state, right? You can change your physical reality, you can change your emotional reality, you can even change your energy about something.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've learned that energy management has made you aware that you have a lot more power than you thought you did, right?
Yes.
Before you knew that there was something like, oh, I can be a manager. Nobody told me, right? It's so weird. You can laugh about it now. It's so weird when you adopt that reality, that you can change things. It's so hard to remember what it felt like when you still believed you're victim of everything. Can you guys relate to this? Does anybody feel this too? It's like I can't even remember what it felt like to not have a choice, or to not even consider having a choice. Yeah, it's like long time ago. Yeah, vitality, self-responsibility. Yeah, it's so weird, right? But it's just a shift, though. And since you're still here, maybe what had to shift in you to recognize that you have a choice?
Oh.
Or just think of your own journey.
Yeah, it has been a long process, you know. It's not just something happened from one day to the other.
No, but if you had to boil it down to like one fundamental thing that shifted in you.
Oh, then it must be when I recognized the grace feeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not the same for everyone, but for you, I know it was. I witnessed it.
Yes.
Yes. There was something that happened in you. In your words, I know these things are difficult to describe, but in your words, what shifted there? How did it affect you? Why did it have such a strong impact on you?
That there was something, and energy level that was much bigger than I ever knew.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I can choose to go there. I
So
learned
yeah,
to do that. Yeah, to
I think
actively choose.
I think if I may speak for you or with you here, it wasn't that you doubted that this energy level was there, but I think you
No.
doubted that it was in you. You thought it
Yes.
was something outside of you, right?
Yes.
And it was when the first time, and even though it's just a few seconds, you felt it in you, that did something to you.
Yeah.
So this is important here. And I'm sure it's similar, but maybe different for others. Cindy is chiming in. She said, trust sounds very similar to what Annette said to me. The trust that it's in me, or that it's obtainable. Trust. And I want to add hope as well, right, Annette? I mean, it makes a person hopeful too, right?
Yeah, and also that you're not supposed to be good or do something special to attain it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cindy, I think this goes even more into the direction of what you're trying to say, right? I saw your microphone was on. That you deserve it.
Exactly. And the connecting from the inside instead of getting it from the outside and trying to get validation from
That's
the
a
outside,
big
and just learning to trust in your self-belief, basically.
self-belief. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Janet is adding here, for me, one thing that had to shift was self-acceptance, or embracing acceptance, like accepting myself. Very, very important. This is a huge shift for people when they can feel that. Yeah, when they can feel that, you know, that when, for as long as they're going against themselves, yeah, that everything else is kind of powerless. Yeah, so this powerlessness that we often perceive has a lot to do with self-belief, as Cindy just called it, and self-acceptance, as, or embracing self, as Janet is calling it, whereby the self-acceptance also brings in a certain level of truth, right, Janet? I mean, this is what I'm seeing in your statement as well. Because, I mean, what is so hard about accepting self? It's typically something that we don't want to see, something that we shove away, or that we, well, for whatever, you know, belief system we're in, that we deem as bad, say. Yes, yes, it's like it takes out certain darknesses. Yeah, so this has a lot to do with belief about self as well. Yeah. So when we can't accept ourselves, yeah, which then ultimately leads to a lack of self-belief, it usually has to do with us going against certain things inside of us. So, and these things are typically the things that we call darknesses, the inner darknesses, the things that we cannot love about ourselves. Yeah. So lack of self-acceptance is fundamentally a lack of self-love. Yeah. So there are aspects of ourselves, and this is often religious, you know, conditioned through religion, that we despise, that we want to cut out, that we want to get rid of, or that we do not want to accept as part of the whole. Yeah. And yes, Cindy, you're right. It can go as far as having this fundamental belief that we are dark, or that we're bad, or that we are sinners, right? Yeah. Yeah, so this is ultimately something here about the nature of darkness that you are discovering here right now. And I don't want to go too deep into like why religion or some religions do that, but you can see here that there is an element of darkness to some of the things that we that make us believe that we are bad, that we are flawed, that we are imperfect, that we are sinners, yeah, on multiple levels. Anything from social media, body shaming, and stuff like that, to like perceiving ourselves as unlovable. Yeah, nobody loves us, which would be more sort of the heart level. Believing that we're not good enough, that you know, that we are fundamentally not far enough developed or anything like that. Yeah, and then spiritually that we are sinners, that we are you know, somehow, I don't know, infested maybe by dark energies and so forth. They can all lead to you know, us not wanting to love ourselves, us not wanting to accept, to believe in ourselves, to have courage, to have faith, and all these things that we already know could, you know, sort of align us, could bring us back to balance, could bring us back to the light. Yeah. Yes, Janet, you're absolutely right. It's the subconscious, the subconsciousness, and you know, the feeling of being wrong as a sort of a subconscious the program. Subconscious programs, guys, are conditioned. They're sociological. Okay, so subconscious is we're not. I am not being precise here on the distinction between psychological terms and say self-growth, energetic mindfulness terms. Yeah, but the subconscious is the stuff that is programmed. Yeah, so there are different layers of conditioning and programming that we go through in our stages of development, yeah, which is called socialization. And this is then fundamentally what forms our unconscious. Yeah, so the subconscious is underneath. Sub means underneath the consciousness, and the unconscious is on the level of consciousness, but it is not discovered yet. Yeah, so subconscious is the stuff that we're completely unaware of. Unconscious is the stuff that we perhaps choose to be unconscious of. Yeah, important distinction here. Remember, you keep sharing and asking questions as we go, because it's going to get really, really interesting now. Okay, so this, you guys are familiar with this five-folded way. I'm going to introduce a new way of looking at yourself from an energetic or spiritual point of view, and that's a little different. Whoops, sorry for that. That's a little different, but not. What we see here is that we have still the five-folded way, but the red and the orange, I want to sort of put them together now, yeah, as this sort of body and emotion, yeah, this neurotransmitter sort of 3D cellular level, yeah, then you know, so this here becomes one when we look at things through the lens of say darkness and light. Yeah, so let me just do this here, because that is probably a lot better to understand them. Yeah, if you see them together, and then you know, basically it's 1A and 1B, yeah, then it becomes a little more clear. Body and heart. So in this case, heart is referring to these connection levels that Annette mentioned in the beginning. Yeah, this connection with other people, this belonging, this not feeling alone, and being fundamentally in a safe place with your body. Yeah, with on you know, like these fundamental levels of needs, Maslow's needs, you know, sort of feeling fundamentally connected to the world, you know, and with others. Okay, that then, you know, whoops, sorry for that, is something that we need to understand. This is our inner child. This is our emotional attachments and so forth. Yeah, this level here affects, yeah, mostly our psychology. Yeah. And how the psychology works on us, yeah, in form of nervous system, in form of neurotransmitters, and in form of our choices, how we feel about things. So it's the feeling level here, these two, senses and feeling. Mental is clear. The mental forms an etheric body around us, and this is what most of you have been training with me on various levels. And here I need to say to all of you that I have been using words in a way that it's easier to understand, knowing that it's not the correct classification. But for the most part, I have been using the word etheric for everything that is sort of beyond our thinking level. Yeah, so anything that is energetic. I have been using the word energetic and etheric interchangeably, and this is not entirely correct. To understand the nature of darkness, it's important that we that we differentiate this now, because there's different levels of darkness, different levels of energies, or dark energies and dark entities on these different levels. And here now we have to be a little more precise as far as like what energetic level are we perceiving them at, okay, and how they are created, what creates those beings, those entities, those energies, okay. And this slide here says levels of reality, yeah, and this is not just referring to the reality of darkness. So from an energetic point of view, yeah, reality is composed of dark and light, if you will. And therefore, where we gravitate toward, what susceptibilities we have and what we perceive, depends on how well we can differentiate. Yeah, so Janet, you just brought in the word subconscious. Okay, so for a person that has absolutely no training, consciousness training whatsoever, things will always just kind of cruise around here in the red and orange, in the physical and emotional, psychological part of their reality. Yeah, most things will be completely unaware to the person. Yeah, and they're operating on this instinctual, which is the physical, and the intuitive level, which is the just sort of how they think it's supposed to be without thinking, really. So the thinking, the mental level, yeah, is something that creates new forms. Yeah, so think of mindsets, think of beliefs, but more so mindsets. Yeah, those create energetic fields, etheric fields, yeah, in us, and they're linked to us. So the form that these mental sort of forms have, yeah, is fundamentally what we call ego. So I think it's a little better a way for you to understand this. Yeah, so everything that you create in your ego reality, yeah, then basically is mirrored in your etheric reality, and that is still linked to you, to your body. Okay. Then there's this would be the second level here, and then there's the level of the third level, the astral level, where we see things more in form of what we believe, yeah, what our beliefs are. So when people see Jesus, when they see angels and so forth, it's an astral level. Those are sort of energies that we're picking up on that still are linked to what our belief system is. Yeah. So those of you in the energy course, you may have heard me say things about how our visions, how you can tell a lot on which level that person is actually perceiving by the forms that they are describing, yeah, like how they give it form. And it's very easy to identify if what they're perceiving as visions are still sort of ego forms, yeah, because they're still fundamentally like the person sees himself or herself. I know this is starting to get challenging for you guys here, but this has a lot to do with what darkness is and how you can learn to differentiate darkness. Yeah, so we have sort of different beings in these different levels, and that's why I need to make this distinction here. The astral level is something that I guess we could also put the occult in here. It has to do with your beliefs, okay? This is, something that if you believe in a curse, well, then that curse can also get a foothold on you. Yeah, the curse would be a lower astral energy. And then here, fundamentally, as the energetic reality, which is then perceived sort of as just a pure energetic level, yeah, where you can read out energies, where you have a conscious awareness of your soul. So let me do this here as I'm speaking, because as I'm speaking, I'm learning through your guys' energy how to best word things. Okay, yeah, so we have these four fundamental levels of reality, whereby here that these can be perceived as separate realities, but they're not really that different. They're all on the level of our needs and sort of psychological levels. When it comes to the levels of awareness, what we will see here is that they can play out differently. Yeah, so Jona brought this in, the awareness, the subconscious. Yeah, so and I already kind of gave you a few hints there. So the level of awareness that people have, depending on the level of reality that they're perceiving their life as, here can be seen on the left, yeah, has to do with what sort of their life view reflects back to them. On the level, on this most fundamental physical 3D level, that people perceive things as illusions. Yeah, they are, you know, like very simplistic, like a child. Yeah, a child for the most part has illusions. We don't see this as negative or positive. It's part of the brain development. Yeah, so in the first 18 months or so, the child believes that, you know, it is completely connected with the mother, and that everything derives around them. Okay, and that's normal. It's an illusion now, but for that stage of development, it's an appropriate illusion. The 1.5, 2-year-old till 3-year-old, you know, think of the terrible twos, is absolutely convinced that you know, their ego is, the formation of their ego is super at the center of everything. So there is, you know, there's still empathy and so forth in development there, but there's a delusion in me that if I want this big enough, strong enough, yeah, if I throw a tantrum, if I, you know, steal the cookies from my friend, or if, you know, if I want something and I just go get it, that is, you know, my right to do that because I deserve it, or because, you know, that's me. So the level of illusions and delusions here is fundamentally here this psychological level. Yeah, this is also where mental illnesses and so forth, where they take place. Now, if you go a step higher into the thinkingness, yeah, into the ego thinkingness that we have, yeah, then you'll see that this is mostly or can become mostly aware to us through our mindsets, through our habits, yeah, through what we cultivate. So my mindset can be, for example, that I'm a victim. Yeah, this is not necessarily emotional. This is a mindset. Yeah, or that I am the best of something, or that I am the richest person or most powerful person, or whatever. You know, you know, something that I'm fundamentally believe about myself. Okay. The spiritual awareness, yeah, that has to do with our beliefs. Okay, so you can take different kinds of religions, for example, and you can see that and many religions actually have very similar beliefs, but then they don't. Yeah, there's different deities or different gurus or whatever they're revering. That, you know, they give it different forms, but the you know, the beliefs are very similar. If you look at it from a political level, for example, you have you know, more of a faction or distinction here between, you know, my opinion, your opinion, you know, positionality and so forth. These are taking place on the astral level, even though they're not always spiritual of nature. This is very important to understand. This is not necessarily only reduced to spiritual content. Yeah, we're talking about levels of awareness and what they form and where they form. The mental level is where the confidence stems from. Well, there's two different things, confidence and self-esteem, that are very much related, Janet. So confidence does not really come from the mental level. Self-esteem does. Yeah, you can have this belief about yourself, you know, that you're the best. Okay, but the confidence, yeah, to have that fully internalized and to embody that, yeah, even with people with very high self-esteem, they don't always have confidence. Yeah, that comes from the internalization of it. So yes, the ego level is more the self-esteem level. the confidence level is more of a belief, more of a self-belief level. So I can have the confidence that I can deal with anything that comes along, right, without needing to believe that I'm the best at energy management or blah blah, you know, in psychology or blah blah blah. I don't need to, you know, have that self-esteem. Yeah. So yes, you differentiate between esteem and confidence. And see, the thing with esteem is that you know, people think that having degrees or having a certain level of a certain title or a certain form, yeah, that is actually what allows them to have power. It's not the case. It's still just really made up. It's an etheric creation, if you will. Yeah. Yeah. So very careful here, because self-esteem is also what you know, this whole validation and projection business is tied to. Self-belief is a little different. Yeah? When you have this confidence in yourself, it's more of a belief thing. Yeah. So here it would be more self-belief and self-trust. Yeah, as opposed to confident self-esteem. So confidence does not come from the mind. Yeah, very important to understand. So if we now look at the levels of expressions, and especially negative expressions, okay, so how do they play out in our awareness and a perception of negative, or let's just call it dark expression here. Yeah, what we perceive as dark. Okay, and this is now where I hope that most of your questions come from. I really want you to look at this. Okay, first of all, you see something here that I've tried to cue when I asked you on which level of your body you feel this, like how this is signaled to you when you have this issue, like say for example what Janet meant, when you have a lack of sleep and food and not enough, sort of on this first chakra fundamental sort of needs level, you know, you will really feel this in your senses. Yeah, you know, you often, it often also comes with skin conditions and issues with sort of parasites and so forth, because you know, you fundamentally not connected to life itself. So life for you is an illusion. Catch or where I catch a lot of people having sort of a negative attitude to it, life itself, not wanting to be in 3D. This plays out on the level of senses, on their senses. So they see things out of the corner of their eyes, yeah, and it feels, they feel stalked, they feel there's constantly somebody watching them. Yeah, so this is some of these things that you can experience, dark expressions. Yeah, so in spiritual sciences, not spiritual science, that's a religion, but in consciousness science, we call this phantoms. Yeah, those are things that are, they're almost tangible. You know, when you wake up and you feel like something is, you know, someone that you are missing or so, who's not in your life, it feels like they're living, they're laying right next to you. Yeah, that's the level of phantoms. Yeah, this is, it's still very visceral. Yeah, you feel it through your senses. Also, a lot of the things that people experience as in states of sleep paralysis, or you know, these things that we sometimes sense, yeah, when we are in going through the dark night of the soul. Dark expressions of the emotional and more sort of heart level, you know, like where it's more about this performance that Abigail mentioned at the beginning, yeah, where we can't really make a connection, where we think we have to be in a certain way. That is for expression here for energetic expression often accompanied with etheric dirt. Etheric dirt is a word. I don't know if I invented that or picked that up from somewhere. It doesn't matter. Etheric dust or whatever. You really feel sort of everything is contaminated around you, and this feeling of living or walking through molasses, that everything is so like really thick. Yeah, that is one of these delusions, how how we can identify darkness in our life. Yeah, and this comes from literally not really seeing ourselves connected in a way that we are not connected with the life, the world, yeah, the world outside of just our own body. Yeah, so other people, other life outside of ourselves. Yeah, so the world around us, it's the world that we see ourselves in. And when we reject that, it becomes very, very difficult for us to feel. It becomes very difficult for us also to move. So our mobility, this is the level of mobility, the skeleton, the muscles and the joints, yeah, are a lot affected by etheric dirt. And these are fundamentally illusions. Yeah, delusions. Yeah, delusions here, sort of on the level of how they come to us in the energetic. Now, at the level of connection that Annette mentioned earlier, yeah, that brings in is sort of this no, Abigail, I think you mentioned this, the way you feel this in this exhaustion all the time, yeah, where you feel this not really being able to ever get anywhere. Yeah, this fighting against windmills and feeling trapped. Yeah, that then ultimately wears you out and creates these sort of these dragons, these inner dragons. Yeah, do you see yourself up against inner dragons? These are formed by our habits. Yeah, by these patterns that we form around it, the coping patterns. They are linked to our mind because they have a lot to do with how we sync them up. Yeah, so we believe that that is how we have to deal with them, and they then form, these nightmares, these ghosts and dragons in us. Yeah, they affect our glands, mostly our adrenal gland, but also, thyroid and other glands. This is all has to do with our mindsets, guys, yeah, and with our ego reality that it then gets mirrored in the etheric as, these ghosts and dragons. I think Stuart Well called them ghouls on that level. He never really systematically linked them. This is much more detailed here, yeah, as a roadmap for you guys to differentiate dark entities. On the spiritual, on the astral level, guys, there you will find that the way you see the world, the way you see God or darkness and light, the way you see humanity, yeah, that is something that creates here sort of as dark expression in form of demons. That those are not the same as ghouls. So ghouls are more like zombie. That these are more like these ghosts, these zombie, or sometimes a bit more specific like dragons. But on this level of spiritual beliefs and conviction and righteousness and moralization, you will create, either encounter or also self-create, yeah, sort of the demons in your life, the demons in your own perception, yeah, and the nervous system is a carrier for this on your level, on your physical level within yourself. So there we see these manifestations here on these levels. We see manifestations of imbalances or illnesses or attachments. there. Yeah, and I'll say a little more about this here in a few minutes. Let me just walk you through this, and then I hope you have a lot of questions. When it comes to faith, when it comes to like fundamentally what we believe in, yeah, this is where the choice comes in that Cindy mentioned earlier, you know, where we perceive ourselves as a soul with a body versus a body with a soul, where we are sort of steering toward or cultivating, depending on what level of consciousness a person is, yeah, toward our I am awareness. We are aware that we are a spiritual entity ourselves, that we have a soul, and we are what I often call a conscious, you know, sovereign soul self, that we understand that there is something way more important here than just this 3D and even, you know, our ego and even our beliefs. There's something that is beyond that. Yeah, that's the soul level. And on that level, we are, the dark expressions come in form of spirit beings and often also sort of imposters. Okay, so this is something that we're going to have to discuss here. You know, like, you know, sort of creating these visions of Jesus and angels and all that. Yeah, and we will, or at least that is my hope, learn how to discern this. Issues on that level, yeah, on that soul level, guys, they manifest in our blood. This is also why, for example, satanic cults and so forth use blood as currency, okay, because that's sort of the carrier here in 3D. Yeah, but also in the oxygen, in the iron in our blood, yeah, the iron ion being the carrier of, you know, the breath of life in our blood, the hemoglobin, and you know, everything that is taking place there. So I said something here right now, and I know this is scary, but we will learn why it's important to look at that. That imbalances or infestations, for example, or, you know, attachments and so forth, that they are manifesting on these levels of your 3D body. And I want to ask you now how you feel about this. Yes, blood is also the carrier of most of our immunity. That's correct. On the 3D level, that is correct. Yeah, so 3D cellular, absolutely, yes. But we're talking about it as a expression of darkness, yeah, in us. So when there's imbalances with our blood. So let's go through some of these examples and how this can be self-diagnosed, or, you know, how you can tell by the say the diseases, yeah, that are pestering you, you know, maybe what's at the core of those. Yeah, so let's go through some, you know, of these kind of, yeah. So Aneta, you're asking is what is ANS in the astro? ANS is the automatic nervous system. Yeah, I didn't have enough space to write that. Nervous system. Okay, is that better? Yes, I think that's better. Okay, so let's look at it from the lens of you know, the manifestations in our life and what this can indicate. Yeah, and then I'll explain to you how you know, which activities, which kind of thoughts, which kind of emotions, which kind of habits promote that and make you more susceptible. So I want you to ask about certain kinds of conditions, maybe, yeah, either sort of more psychological conditions or physical conditions or etheric conditions. What are some of the things that you've experienced in your life or know someone? Okay, so Janet is sharing, I've had early morning dreams. That is a real situation, but I don't really know the people. Sometimes recently there were or are people that I know here too. I take it as being the phantom of darkness category. Yes, no, sorry, it's noisy for me, too noisy for me to talk. Okay, so the phantom darkness category of darkness. So I would say yes, Janet. Okay, the time of the day, yeah, is these morning dreams, these morning. Who of you has a lot of that? Who of you has a lot going on in the mornings, like right when you wake up? I mean, we obviously have a certain we have certain sleep cycles, and if we wake up in a REM cycle, for example, of our sleep, then we will have a stronger kind of imprint of that. Yeah, but mostly for you just before waking. Okay, so let's take that situation. During that time to meditate and not be in those situations. Okay, this is why I used to get up during that time. Okay, yeah, so let's look at this. I agree with you that you are probably dealing with the lowest category of a dark expression there with phantoms. They are lower. Okay, they are basically sort of imprints in the etheric. And what this means is that when somebody, and you guys all are, so obviously here this is only a discussion among those people who have etheric vision. Yeah, what you are perceiving there is basically sort of their etheric residue, yeah, that they are producing, that everybody's producing. It's a field that we sort of schlep around with us. Now, during the day, and this is where exposure plays a very important role. If we are exposed, when are we exposed? At places, buildings, sometimes also if we live together with other people or groups. Yeah, so whenever we socialize or go into grocery stores and stuff like that, so we have to deal with phantoms. Okay, they're not very powerful. They're just sort of, sort of that cloud that everybody kind of. I sometimes see this as like breaths on people. People have this sort of breath cloud around them, and when I walk past people that are a little iffy for me energetically, I honestly don't dare to breathe in. Okay, because I don't want to, ingest any of that. I see it, it's enough, I look away, I try not to get an imprint on it. So phantoms leave an imprint on it. It's this visceral, sensual imprint, also visual in form of these, sort of seeing them do things or sometimes feeling them do things. This is not necessarily a sign that this person is doing some kind of etheric abuse or etheric projection. This is a normal sort of a thing that energetically sensitives will pick up on. You will pick up on the residue of people's doings. Okay. The problem is that if you know that you're highly sensitive and you suffer from that, yeah, because it gives you the illusion that people are doing something, but maybe you're just seeing sort of a recycled rewind of them, like something that your brain just recycles. Okay, you need to be careful there. It's an illusion, and at this point, you cannot say that this is real because you're perceiving this on a phantom level, and it has a lot to do with how you feel about that person in that moment. So, for example, if you have a belief then that they're mean or that they're sort of not that they look ugly or whatever, these fundamental simple judgments that you do, yeah, then these phantoms that you see can as well look like, you know, they're trying to stab you, or they're trying to steal your food, or they're trying to do things to you. Okay, so you got to be careful here, because on that level, and this is very typical for these morning situations, because when we sleep, okay, these phantoms, this normal everyday etheric impact or imprint that you get from others, yeah, just external energies, sort of being there. They're not directed to it here, but they're just being there. Okay, will sort of be recycled as you're sleeping. Yeah, it's like the you know, the metabolic residue of all of our doings, so to speak. Then when you wake up, you know, because they were recycled during the day, so the some of the things then come back from the etheric back into your 3D awareness, and this can then really play out as an illusion. So we have to be careful here. People call these things visions. They really aren't. They're just fundamental sort of you know, very, very low on the spectrum of darkness, you know, even below etheric dirt. Yeah, etheric dirt plays into that category and is more sort of this, you know, like what we would call, I mean, see, the words are so confusing. There were people sometimes call it the aura that a person has, yeah, the emotional field that they're producing around them. So when people and sort of dump all their emotions onto you, when they're you know, sort of ranting about the injustice in this world and how you know, what a victim they are, and you know, when they gossip around other people, all kind of like political correctness, how, you know, righteousness and wokeness, yeah, and even this or this new age stuff and occultism, okay, or body shaming and all that, guys, yeah, that then all finds an etheric expression. Yeah, so you got to be very careful if you invest too much into that. Yeah, then these phantoms and this etheric dirt can produce true entities. Yeah, this is this depends on what you energize. Yeah, but it's very important to work on that level. Yeah, that level of phantoms and etheric dirt, because it determines your susceptibility to, you know, say a little higher up there are dark entities. Okay, because if you are already challenged here on these levels, yeah, with illusions and delusions, yeah, because you can't discern your own perception, right? Okay, and you're fighting against phantoms and etheric dirt, guys. You're not going to have enough etheric immunity to really deal with this kind of class of darkness here. Okay, now I do want to point out that the level of phantoms and etheric dirt, yeah, that level of darkness is also what we perceive as collective darkness, guys. That is also finding its expression here in our world right now in form of this polarity, this like one fights against, you know, like my team, your team, the black and whiteness in our society. So this is fundamentally, yeah, how the individual sort of little dirt bags, you know, then produce an overall theme for the collective, or an overall state, yeah, of energy for our societies. Yeah, so we all contribute to that by, you know, these things like energizing injustice and you know, moralizing and gossiping and wokeness and new age and occultism and all these discussions about climate change on the political level, right? The climate change and gender stuff and all that, these politicized sort of, I don't even know how else to describe it. Yes, thank you, Cindy. They're like dirt bags. Yeah, this is like, you know, those little paper bags that you get in the plane, you know, to throw up into. That's what that looks like. It's like these dirt bags that everybody carries around. And if you energize them, if you engage, yeah, in these, okay, what they do, and this is very, very important. If this is all you remember, yeah, they leave an imprint on you. And that imprint then takes form in the etheric. And what this looks like in the etheric, I've mentioned this many times, people look raggedy, they look unkempt, you know, their etheric self. They look dirty, they look frazzled. Yeah, this is it's an ugliness, if you will, an etheric ugliness. Now that comes or that expresses from or through, you know, these dirt bags that people carry around with them or hold on to, or perhaps even, you know, feed into, you know, by energizing, you know, this whole sort of performance and you know, the world is so unfair, and blaming and scapegoating and you know, projecting everything onto others, you know, sort of the opposite of self-honesty. Yeah, so all of that you see, for example, in media right now creates a huge, big etheric dirtbag. We're sitting in one, and it's all full of lies and phantoms. It's all full of like, yeah, crud. It's crud from an energetic point of view. We're sitting on a huge, big pile of dirt, and that creates more dirt. Okay, remember, it leaves an imprint on a person, and that then lowers their etheric immunity, but it also increases their susceptibility. So that's very similar to our physical immune system. It does both at the same time. Jen is further sharing that dirt is like how society seems to be performing currently. That's correct. Right down to the customer service for companies. Oh yeah, and you know, like you know, these movements that you have, you know, these fundamentalist movements of extreme left, extreme right, doesn't matter. Okay, now it gets even more interesting when you put the mental level into account here, and when you look at, you know, when that all mixes with the mindsets and the beliefs, you know, like the party, you know, what party you're in, what team you're in, what, you know, like Christian or Muslim, or, you know, Republican or Democratic, or I don't know, you know, you tell me, you guys know what you know what I mean. It's these convictions, yeah, like, you know, where your reality, yeah, is so clear to you, because it's a reality that formed out of, you know, the sensual stuff, and you know, like how you see the world and how you perceive then, you know, your reality is that total mirror, yeah, and this is of your feeling. It's how you feel in this world. So this, you see, I'm using this in conjunction with mental. So you think that mental is rational. It's not. It's not at all. Okay, so that's why I prefer the word ego, because when it's ego, you understand me a little better. Yeah, the ego can create a reality, guys, and you know this. You know how strong that can be, all the way to being completely convinced of it. This is your truth. Just take the whole vaccine thing, okay? I mean, we had a topic here that affected everybody in this world, more or less, you know, not people who were not connected with internet or media. They didn't know what was going on. And it created two factions. Yeah, those who believed that COVID is going to kill everybody, and those who said, well, you know, it's no big deal. Maybe it's not even real, but you know, that was another sort of offshoot of conviction. Yeah, that is now producing all this, you know, stuff. Yeah, in the person. Yeah, where they you know, begin to like completely identify with stuff. So here on this mental level, it's the mindsets. You know, I should probably call this identity, because this is the things that you identify with. And that on your physical level plays out in your glandular system. Yeah. So the performance, Abigail, that you mentioned in the beginning is a mixture here of these two. Yeah. A connection, the fundamental belonging connection is a mixture of these two. Yeah, and then the true connection with the person here is more here. So it's not that easy to show these things, because it's all just sort of clouds, if you will. But you know, these mental constructs, these things that you identify with your ego, yeah, these you know, this is also where a lot of the personality disorders occur. Yeah, like narcissism, for example. That in the etheric, they form more organized entities now. Okay, more like dragons, more like ghosts, more like maybe also they can also come in form of etheric, like animals, but scary kind. Yeah, so this has a lot to do with what you identify. This is also where people get so wrapped up in their past lives, you know, where they're like, oh, I was this when I was, you know, in one of my past lives, and I was this. This is all like ego stuff. Yeah, it creates ghosts in people's psyche, yeah, in people's perceptions. Dragons are then sort of the ones that you deem as the hostile. It's not necessarily dragons per se, but I wanted to differentiate these different beings for you so that you know what you're dealing with. Who can relate to ghosts/dragons as an etheric mirroring of, you know, maybe sort of enemies that you've identified, or you know, things that you perceive as hostile, yeah, that you perceive as you know, like sort of working against you. The conspiracy theories are also located here. Yeah, so people identify with those, but it's a mixture of these two, because there's a lot of, you know, stuff in there that they didn't actually make up. Other people told them, depending on your alignment. Yeah, but I mean, it's about the experience of it. I didn't ask how often you see it, but can you relate to the experience of this? Yeah, where things take on more form. Yeah, they're not the phantoms. Phantoms are more sort of randomly. Yeah, no, these are, they come back. You recognize them. Yes, I was wondering if I should write that down. The reptilian beings, Janet. Yes, they have to do with mindsets. Because if you really investigate your own perception, and you know, whether it's a dragon or a reptilian, this is that they fundamentally have the same nature. What's the nature of a dragon, of a reptilian? Feel into the nature of it. Nature always being sort of the essence of it. The nature is cold, exactly. Yes, careless, without empathy, and therefore often, you know, cruel. Exactly. Yeah, that's what that is. But I mean, people also see ghosts, you know, like the deceased family members and stuff like that, and identify with them. You know, they have the strong belief that these are, or spirit guides can be the same thing. They have the strong belief that they are, you know, they're they identify with it. Yeah, that this has a message for me. Yeah, so I could put sort of this whole twin soul concept here, like the the illusion of that. Yeah, is more of here of a glandular thing. It's an etheric form. Yeah, it takes on etheric form. So as we are dealing with these things here, the body mind illusions, delusions, and mindsets most in our lives, I want to give you a very clear sort of guidance as to what in your life actually promotes the darkness in these realities. Okay, and this helps us then to better understand darkness itself. Okay, darkness comes in form of lies, illusions, delusions, and projections. Anything that you identify with, that you push out there, that you try others to convince of, yeah, like trying to convince others of truth, or trying to heal others. Yeah, that's here in that category. Trying to heal others creates a lot of etheric dirt in a person and yourself. Just on a side note here, you know, that you are on a mission here, that you're supposed to save the world or something like that. Yeah, so red, orange, yellow is what we primarily deal with, yeah, with sort of our day-to-day ups and downs. And it comes from not being able to discern truth. It comes from us not being able, yeah, to realize, for example, the level of self-honesty, the level of you know, sort of standing and speaking truth, yeah, is still something that we reject. We don't want to see it, we don't want to live it, we don't want to feel it, so we shove it away. And everything that we shove away or that we replace it with, okay, then creates an etheric, like a spiritual reality that you have to deal with beyond just, you know, this lifetime. So this is something that you know, the church has disfigured a little bit, even though there's a little bit of truth to that. Annette is sharing here, I often identify with negativity, and I am just thinking about a vampire. Well, that's something you need to discipline, okay? Because what are you energizing there at that moment? Yeah, you identify with negativity, it produces all this you know, this etheric stuff in your world. Yeah, dragons. Yeah, there could be enemies. Yeah, you could feel like they're all enemies. Yeah, and in your physical body, you know, that will or can, yeah, sort of manifest here in this constant nervousness, this constant adrenal overload. Yeah, and the exhaustion. Yeah, the lack of vitality, and you know, sort of feeling ugly in yourself. Identifying with negativity, Annette, also produces an ugly self in the etheric. And the part that people have a hard time understanding that is that it's a two-way street. So you perceive that ugliness then and use it as a confirmation for your mindset instead of stopping that, yeah, and focusing on things that are more life embracing, that are more, you know, like I know you're already doing this. So it's no criticism. I'm trying to show you the dynamics that bring in more beauty, that bring in more balance, that bring in more symmetry. So when we work on our masculine feminine balance, when we work on our chakras, when we work on, you know, more balanced and self-sustainable life expressions, yeah, no longer extremes and so forth, we are fundamentally producing, you know, a more symmetrical, a more beautiful etheric, and that then also changes. Remember how we started talking about the shift, yeah, in our life that happens, it changed our whole entire life view. It then changes how we see the world and what we believe, and ultimately then also how we understand ourselves. So this is where many of you here, yeah, get stuck with the mindsets, okay? And you believe that what you're seeing there are demons. This is not demons that you see. What you see is your own dragons, yeah? It's your own shadow, fundamentally. Yeah, you see that which you, due to the power of your thinking, yeah, which is still not trained enough to discern truth. So you're still sort of running away from certain truths. You're still compartmentalizing things of your own psyche. Yeah, that creates narratives in you, and these narratives then produce these identity projections. Yeah, these false selves. Yeah, and they then become your inner dragons. And when you pick this up with other people, Janet, yeah, when you see other people in this reptilian form, well, really all you're seeing is their own etheric projection of themselves. Okay, Janet is asking, don't we have to be careful about trying to have positivity with something that is obviously negative? It's so clarifying to identify these as mental identifications. Thank you. Yes, you're absolutely right. So I was just going to say, what's the trap here? Yeah, where does our ego immediately jumps to conclusions when it comes to false positivity, when it comes to wokeness, when it comes to righteousness? Okay, this is those are all inner demons and shadow and white shadow things. Okay, so false positivity is a lie. False positivity is trying to pretend that you're positive when you're actually negative. False positivity is like blind faith, like blind trust. It's an illusion. Yeah, so yes, we have to discipline our minds and our thoughts and our mindsets, and choose carefully what we're identifying with. You know, there is a sort of a thinking field that surrounds us all, just like the etheric dirt. Yeah, we were all picking up on each other's thinking field, and you can't prevent yourself from having thoughts, but you can choose if you identify with it. And that's then the remedy. Yeah, so you can say to yourself, oh, you know, my life is kind of rough right now, okay, and whatever, you know, the cause, okay, but I'm still positive. That's not fake positivity. Fake positivity is, oh, it's all going to be fine. I'm just going to, you know, sort of go with the flow, and it's somehow magically going to sort itself out. That's false positivity. Yes, you're absolutely right, Janet. People seem to get seduced by that sort of illusion. Blind faith, yep, correct. Because they lack the ability to discern truth. Why do they lack the ability to discern truth? Because they're not willing to live in truth or speak truth. Their perception is skewed. So for as long as you're not willing to be absolutely truthful with yourself, you cannot discern outer truth. And for as long as that is the case, you are a sitting duck. You are a little play ball for these lower, you know, lower darkness, dark entities out there. You're just yummy self-serve food because you go for anything. That's why we have to be careful with that. Yes, and that's why the ability to discern truth is a game changer. And that is why it is the only thing that we need to focus on in times like this. I mean, you know, with obviously the pragmatism and realism that comes with living in truth and being in truth. So if you look at, you know, some of the expressions here, you know, like how this creates this sort of cloud around, you know, people's etheric, yeah, or their aura, if you will, yeah. If you don't do anything about that, that cloud's going to consume you, yeah, all the way to the point where, you know, you have zero etheric immune system. You're just like water, and that's then, you know, fundamentally when you give up your soul. That's then when you believe that you're powerless, when you believe that you don't have a soul. Atheists, you know, when you're an atheist, or when you, you know, reduce life to just a material and all that. Yeah, that's like a way up there. Now here on this astral level, okay, what people experience here, and again, see this as a compounding, okay? So the more, you know, illusions and delusions you have, the more that you identify with things, the more righteous you are, the more moralizing, the more gossiping, the more projecting you are, the more you have to hide, yeah? The more you lie to yourself, the more darkness you invite in and allow it to take form in use. It's a level of infestation now, yeah. So while we all experience certain types of illusions, you know, sensory illusions, or you know, every day, all day long, you know, and some emotional, psychological, you know, sort of distortions, yeah, through the dirt that kind of clogs our perception a little bit, yeah. The more we then energize our narratives and put, you know, sort of invest in that, yeah, that's the projections, yeah, that we put out there, the more this takes on form in us, yeah, the stronger the susceptibility grows, and it forms life views. You know, God is bad, the dark is out there to get you. Yeah, and on that level, it really does appear that way. If you cannot discern truth, if you're still unaware, and if you have no heart connection, you will, if you focus on those negative life views and those powerless beliefs, you will experience demons. You will experience demonic forces, either on the outside or on the inside, all the same, no difference. Yeah, when you are not infested yourself, then you see them more outside of yourself. Yeah, you can recognize what's yours and what isn't, because you are able to discern. When you infested yourself, you literally think that it's good. You're like a complete, you completely oblivious to it. I see this with all these new age groups, these cults, and the political. Also, right now, there's a lot of demonic forces that manifest in corporations. So political organizations, economic organizations, you know, or, you know, even these monetary organizations. Yeah, the level of infestation is quite strong and real. Yeah, but it is not anything that needs to scare you, because if you are in truth with yourself, yeah, then you can discern that. The astral level, where people start seeing UFOs, that might obsess them, I would say no, this is more here. You know, this is more here, sort of in the yellow and orange. It has a lot to do with the person's contextualization, yeah, so how they contextualize it. So stories about, say, UFO abduction and demonic abduction are identical with, you know, sort of mental illnesses. Now, we need to differentiate here, okay? UFOs, or let's say outer like any kind of sentient living or life forms outside of humans. Let me ask you here, just sort of what your views are. Do you believe that it is more likely that there's sentient life outside of humans, or do you think it's more likely that we are the only sort of sentient being here in this universe? Who believes that it's more likely that there's other sentient life forms out there? Sentient meaning with self-awareness. Who believes that it's more likely that there's others there as well? Okay, that's only 2 of you. Oh yeah, there's a few more. Okay, so I think it's 100% more likely that there's other sentient life, because even from a pure scientific standpoint, you know, that is totally out of question for me. On which level of reality they exist? Well, I have seen them here on these levels. They exist on this level, and whether they also exist on the 3D level, I don't know for sure, but for me, they're real. So, you know, real as in, you know, they certainly do exist. When we think of UFOs, or people who think that they've been abducted by UFOs, or that UFOs are going to come, or some other species from other planets are going to come to rescue us, what does that express? What's behind that? Yeah, helplessness, powerlessness, some kind of, I mean, it's not too far from what people used to think about gods, you know, 2,000 years ago, right? All the different gods out there, and they get angry at you or not. Maybe you're just their toy. Yes, it has a lot to do with, it's fear-based and has a lot to do with a mental identity. I agree with you, Janet. Now, some people can experience UFOs or, you know, other life forms in the astral. I have, but that doesn't mean that I believe that, yes, exactly, Annette, that I believe that they're necessarily interested in, you know, anything of us, or that they're demonic. Those are, I do believe that some of them don't have very high consciousness level, more likely than not. Okay, but I'm not identifying with any of that. It's a given to me that there's other life forms, and that they exist, you know, either on the 3D level or other dimensional levels. I do understand the limitations of my own 3D mind, which means I cannot imagine anything outside of 3D. But if I rely on my etheric vision and the ability to discern, I do recognize that there are other life forms. Does this mean that they're out to get me, or that they're here to rescue me? No, those are all assumptions. Those are all conclusions that come from my mindset. They have nothing to do with what is going on. Now, is there the experience, the traumatizing experience, so the experience of trauma, you know, that can occur on, you know, the level of, say, alien abduction and so forth. I have experienced that as well. Yeah, I know that is real as well. That takes place here. Okay, and that is can be very, very real for people if they are very infested. Then that's what they will experience. Okay, so the part here that is so hard to understand and not misunderstand, yeah, is that we are responsible for our creations, for our reality, just not in the way people contextualize it. Yeah, so they will say, well, how can you say that? You know, if I was raped, you know, as a 13-year-old, you know, by some other guy, how can you say I am responsible for it? Or if I'm a Holocaust victim, how can you say that? How can I say that, guys? How can I say that everything is a two-way and that we are responsible for our reality? How can I say that without meaning it in a way that sort of binds a person here to mindsets again? Anybody? Yes, it can be karmic. Yes, that's a level now that we're entering where it no longer has to do with the things that we do here or that we have done here. So karmic, Annette, I take that as, you know, something that is recorded in the spirit world. Yeah, sort of on that level. Yeah, and that there's a certain sort of like say certain things have to happen in a person's life for them to either undo it or to you know, to learn something. Yeah, and that's probably the best way. I mean, I like to describe it in a more neutral way. You know, this sort of record keeping, yeah, this sort of universal record keeping, that everything is recorded. Everything leaves an imprint on you. Yeah, well, a matter of circumstance and consequence, I disagree, Janet. That is a reduced level. That is a level that reduces it down to just these two levels here. Because there, I mean, unless you see karma as a sort of consequence, you know, then I would agree with you. But karma really just means action. It just means it's really just hinting at the balance of things. In other words, if you create an imbalance somewhere, then it needs, in the bigger scope of things, not just one lifetime, but your overall sort of soul development needs to be leveled out at some point. Yeah. So these strong astral imprints that people have, they are very real. These are still things that, you know, that we can you know, like address in energetic clearings. Yeah, so most of what is cleared in energy clearings is this level and this level here. This requires the person to start engaging. Sorry, guys. This requires the person to start engaging in the healing process because they recreate them, because they identify with it, because they have this habit. Yeah, they recreate them so we can clear them up, but then they 5 minutes later they're back. This is where the need for self-healing really comes in on this consciousness level. This is a level of infestation that can be cleared with an energy healing, and we do this. But there is a much more powerful way to clear this out, and that is actually to begin to work here on connection on the soul level, because that one is the most powerful one. So demons and darkness, what most people will sort of perceive as darkness, is actually not that powerful, only if the person's life views and beliefs truly align to it. Yeah, so if you make vows, if you have made oaths, if you have tattoos on you, you know, that invite certain astral beings in, if you false positivity would also be one, guys. That's a big lie, you know, that invites sort of the demons of deception. Yeah, all demons, all dark forces are basically forces of deception, lies, and untruth. Yeah, they invite them in. Even things such as you know, having bad laws in a society, bad you know, bad as an unjust or unfair. You know, sort of the absence of equality, the absence of unity, and the absence of you know, something, you know, that we would call mutuality, where we see ourselves as a whole. All right, the absence of that, it you know, sort of attracts, you know, all these demonic entities into the lives on that level. So that's why you see a lot of demonic forces in the corporations, and with there's a lot of money there. So the whole sort of super rich billionaire type of oligarch type of level, the big organizations such as Federal Reserve and stuff like that, and also the Vatican and stuff like that, because you have this combination here of certain beliefs and life views, and the focus on that is so strong, yeah, that the power congregates then, yeah, and then it's like wants to be with like, okay, so one attracts the other, and it shows you how darkness then grows. Okay, now the thing is, light grows too that way. Okay, and so and to a degree, light even exponentially grows through the presence of demons, because the one thing that then occurs in us is the remembrance, yeah, that the only way to counteract that, or to, it's not the only way, but a very effective way, is through faith, is through grace, is through courage and hope, and not blind hope, not blind faith, not blind trust, not blind courage. No, through really focusing on grace and the conscious soul self-awareness. And if you do that, yeah, and that's a link to the manifestations of our blood. Here, this is very interesting for some of you who have had diseases of the blood, okay, because there is something there that you are not wanting to choose, yeah, even though you already have the connection to it, but there's something that you're not wanting to choose because there still is too much fear, yeah, and that can then lead to manifestations on that level. Yeah, it's very interesting also if you look at COVID, yeah, which is fundamentally, like I've mentioned this many times, yeah, sort of a hemophilitic disease. Yes, it's a disease that attacks the lining of your blood vessels, and with it the oxygen transfer in you, which is fundamentally from my perspective, yeah, a direct attack on your vitality, on your energy, a direct attack. Okay, and that happens on the level of darkness which is why I have been talking about this more in the last 2 years, that people will call satanic or something like that. So that happens on a level that is literally the dark force itself. Okay, and this is not something that you need to be afraid of. It's something that you need to understand so that you know how to counteract that. Okay, it's very easy to counteract that, because even on that level, it is not stronger than the light. Yeah, darkness, after all, is an absence of light. And the antidote to darkness is bringing in more light. How can we bring in more light? Well, not through New Age beliefs or religious beliefs or life views of righteousness or blind activism or anything, not through, narcissism or, coping mechanisms or, whatever narratives or mindsets you've created, not through delusions, not through, no, through faith, through the I am awareness, that you recognize that you are a sovereign soul self. And what happens when someone recognizes that, guys? What happens? Yes, when somebody recognizes, when somebody has that conscious awareness. Yeah, so here you just see, oops, here you see yes, it spreads. Yeah, it permeates all levels. It takes a little longer, yeah, till it does that here on this level, but miracles are possible because it is a much higher vibratory resonance. Okay, and integrity is then something that's self-sustaining. Okay, so you see here, what leads to those kind of problems on these levels. Unawareness is, like childlike unawareness, projection, lack of discernment, autopilot, conformism. Yeah, so the UFO stuff is, here's a lack of discernment, and then sort of a blind, the same with conspiracy theories. it leads to integrity, and integrity is something that you can feel in your own congruence, in your own inner guidance, on so many different levels. You feel it on all levels. You become able to feel true connection. You become able to feel true love, you know, like truly unconditional love versus you know, conditional love. You become able to feel what freedom means, because you value choice. You understand that choice is a power. Okay, you become able to, you know, see when somebody is lying, yeah, or not see, is more like a feeling. So you can use your trained mind now, yeah, to discern and to see through things. And that's then, you know, basically your antidote. That's why you should never, never, never do any kind of things that involve blood, ever. Tattooing is one of those deceptive ones. Yeah, so it's okay if you have a strong, strong feeling with something, you know, something very, that means something very positive. So there's a lot of people who tattoo like the Sanskrit Om, or, you know, I am. Yeah, I mean, you know, if people really know what it is, if they don't just do it because it's chic or because it's a fad, yeah, that would be false positivity. But if they really believe in it, you know, I can see a certain level of use for it, but you're giving your blood for it. So you're giving a piece of your soul for it. There's always, always, always careful when you do that. Okay. That is not good for a sovereign soul self. Yeah. You are the master of your soul. Okay. And you're on a journey, okay, that allows your soul to evolve. Yeah. Spiritually, and the way you do this is here in 3D. So here now, to wrap all this up, yeah, like what creates these barriers, yeah, of us being able to see this, and how this unconscious manifestation in our life happens. Yeah, I've basically structurally showed you here. So on this early developmental stage of awareness, yeah, it's a karmic barrier. So this is where a lot of people experience, you know, trauma early in life. Yeah, this is all karmic. It has to happen, and that's why it usually happens early, and then it tends to duplicate, replicate, you know, weave through your life if you're not really becoming aware of it. The second barrier is the awareness and perception barrier. This is, you know, like the level of codependency, for example, yeah, where you think that, oh, you know, I'm such a good person, I sacrifice myself for others, and da da da, and you're basically kidding yourself, because really why you're doing this is because you want approval, you want validation. And why do you want validation? Because you think, you know, it's outside of you, because you can't love yourself enough. So this is a self-love deficiency here, really, yeah, why this, it's also why it affects our heart so much. Then here on a mental level, okay, it's the feeling barrier. Okay, this is where, you know, working with your emotions, emotional literacy, and understanding that all emotions have the right to be there. They're part of your signaling system. Yeah, where you recognize that you have to be able to feel in order to think clearly. Otherwise, you won't be able to discern. And then here is the truth barrier, you know, where somebody is really willing to stand in absolute truth with themselves. Without that, you cannot see through, you know, those political, corporate, religious, or media mind control things, because your reality is like an echo chamber. Yeah, you're absolutely convinced of it. You will not be able to see through that. And then here on the soul level, the barrier is a consciousness barrier. And the reason why I put sleep there, guys, is because it has a lot to do with sleep. It has a lot to do with the meditative state. It has a lot to do with us being able to master our senses and our body and our glands and our nervous system, which is why many call the vagus nerve the basically sort of the spirit nerve in us, because that can then allow you, yeah, in this meditative or sleeping state, in both states, that happens, to clear out your etheric, to self-clear all these things, yeah, in your consciousness, and the corresponding energy management then allows you to recognize what needs to be applied where. Yeah, so it's energy management is pragmatism, it's spiritual pragmatism, really, because you learn, you know, what it is that you need to counteract, what you need to work with. Yeah, so but you see here, these are all the traps and barriers of perception that lead to unconscious manifestation. Yeah, and when you don't have integrity, okay, then you know that consciousness barrier cannot be felt by you. It cannot be. You can't even train it. Yeah, and that's why sleep. I should put meditation in here. It does very similar transmissions as well. Yeah, this is the level on which you can learn to operate then. Yeah, where you etherically clear yourself out, you get past phantoms, etheric dirt. These are all, I mean, if I share my personal journey with you guys, yeah, you know that I come from a very dark place within myself, yeah, which was a very, very strong karmic barrier. I mean, by the time I was 13, I tried to kill myself twice. Yeah, my father and my great-grandfather both committed suicide. And then my uncle, do you know what I mean? Like, no, it's not my direct uncle. It is the father of my, the brother of my grandfather. You see, that's a barrier here. Like, if I would have, I mean, this is literally like something that I could have easily not survived. Yeah, easily. Yeah, it's if it wasn't for, you know, something higher, like guys, you know, sort of kicking in and sort of unconsciously pulling me out of there. Yeah, it was a very, very strong barrier in my life. And then I had to deal with, you know, the awareness level, because I just simply didn't know anything, yeah. And all this etheric overlay that I had all day long since childhood on, where I didn't want to sleep because every time I closed my eyes, all I saw was people killing each other and stabbing and, you know, like fire and apocalypse. Okay, doom and gloom. That's etheric dirt. Okay, I didn't know any better. And then in my sort of early 20s, you know, when I tried to develop more self-esteem, right, and started to like identify with things and you know, I started to feel cold in my heart. I started to feel disconnected and you know, useless, like life has no purpose. And that's when I experienced that, you know, striving for money or striving for degrees or striving for fame. Yeah, I mean, I've had these all karmically in me. I had a TV show when I was 18 years old. I had, you know, early degrees and early jobs and lots of money and so forth, and all that made me extremely cold and empty inside. And this is when I had the strongest sort of overlay of you know, these things chasing me and you know, like all this sort of inner shadow fight, right? This is then what motivated me to go on this this consciousness journey, yeah, the self-healing journey, because I literally couldn't function. I had lots of money and, you know, all that, but like I could not function. Yeah. And all I attracted, all I attracted into my life was narcissists. That's the same level. You attract narcissists in your life. That's because you got stuck here. Okay. And then as I was starting to mess around with this, and I started to believe that I know it all, and, you know, I did this whole astral exploration, you know, and plant medicine and messing around with the astral. Okay, I realized that, you know, this isn't a technique that one can learn. This is something that one has to learn to embody, because on that level you have no chance if you don't embody this. All this fake spirituality and new age and blah blah blah, that just makes you like a sitting duck. That doesn't work there. So here on the astral level, learning discernment can only happen through absolute truth, bone crushing truth with yourself. And then you realize that the exploration of these demons and all that isn't really going to get you anywhere. This is the level of sort of spirit warriors and lunar fighters and stuff like that. You know, it's fundamentally sort of a spiritual narcissism, yeah, that motivates that. It isn't until you realize that, you know, the true power, yeah, that you have and that has always been there. Whoops, are you guys still there? Yeah. That comes through your connection with your own grace, with your own soul. And it does help to have that etheric vision, because I tell you, when I've always felt it in me, and I would say that I've always had faith in my life, probably because when I was so young, you know, I should have not survived my young years. You know, it's like spiritual experiences that have allowed me to stay alive. Yeah, so that there was a certain level of faith. It wasn't religious, but it was clearly there. Yeah, regardless of how forsaken I felt. Okay, and I know you guys can relate to that. It's that sort of spiritual nostalgia. Yeah, it helps to have etheric vision with this, because when I realized what happens in the etheric, if I'm actually home, if I'm actually standing in my sovereign soul self, what can I say? I don't want to sound like a new ager, but that's power. Then you don't need to worry about these kind of things anymore. Yeah, your daily oscillations can sometimes, you know, weaken your etheric immune system, just like we have that in the physical as well, and a lack of sleep, and, you know, not being conscious enough, you know, like just wanting to veg out and watching Netflix and stuff like that. Yeah, that can do stuff. Or you find yourself surrounded by this again, you know. So yes, I too have to pay attention to my adrenal glands. I have to pay attention to my nervous system. Yeah, and yes, I have to pay attention to my blood. And this has a lot to do with the iron levels in you guys. So there's more to iron in your blood than just sort of the quantitative measures. Yeah, it's something that allows you to wield the sword of truth. Yeah? It allows you to really operate and function with truth. It's not only that you can discern truth, you can apply it. And that's when you connect with soul purpose and stuff, because you realize where we're at, where our society is at, kind of like here. Okay, the one thing that the collective needs is what? Overcome this barrier. Humans have to learn how to discern truth. And I guess that's something that I have done in previous lifetimes already, because I came with this knowing. Yeah, so this is then, oops, yeah, we had an audio outage here. This is then how you discern darkness, guys. Yeah, it's on that level. It's on that level that this occurs, in each of these levels. And you know, the first 8 is basically, hang on a second, guys, for this, for the noise here. I need to cut that out. So by knowing darkness, that's also how you can out-vibrate darkness. And the more you learn about this, and the more you learn to discern this, yeah, and the more you know, you become sort of like, say, confident with this. Obviously, the less you have to fear, but the more powerful you get, because you can call it out. So there's a fundamental power in calling things by its name. Yeah, knowing what it is. You have to know what it is. You can call it out by its name, and it loses its power, because this is fundamentally your power. Words are form as well. And if you can see what a person who's trained their etheric, who's worked on their consciousness, who's increased their heart capacity, what that looks like in the etheric, you understand why that is all I focus on, because that is what creates power in a person. The way it looks like is symmetrical, beautiful, unbelievable magnificence, without giving it sort of archetypal forms. It's just really, really beautiful. And in transmission work, we can sometimes experience this together. Truth is beautiful. Lies are ugly. So self-deception, this is, what many of you struggle with, creates a lot of dirt, etheric dirt bags in and around you. And really the antidote here is in a nutshell, learning how to discern truth. Yeah, learning how to get out of your physical, emotional, mental hell wheels. Yeah, because these all create hell wheels in you, and also spiritual hell wheels, because you pull them into, these, identifying with these or resisting these, then that forms more of that. So these are all different densities, of darkness, but also light. Both. And it's a two-way street. Any questions? Don't know if we still have connection. It seems to go in and out for some reason.
We can hear you, Jona.
Oh yeah, okay. Fine.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Erika.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. It's a lot of information, and it's amazingly rich and really interesting.
Is this, if I may ask you, because you don't find this kind, these are like lectures and workshops and stuff that need to be done over and over again until it's too dense of information.
Yeah.
But it is my rendering. This is a rendering that I felt could work. Yeah, how I use this fivefold body. Yeah, to show you the different hierarchy and the different density levels of things. Does that work? Is that something that the mind can allow in?
Yeah, definitely. I like it. And I can also see that for each of them, you've gone through each one, but like there's so much you can unpack within each one as well. So and I think that there are so many questions.
And maybe we should do this. I mean, if you guys want this, there's no limit to this. We have the freedom of choice, right? We can here as a community, we can do 5 separate talks just about the manifestations on a specific level. I just would not like to call it darkness then. I would like to call it, just all the manifestations, the conscious and the unconscious manifestations on these levels. But we needed to have some kind of guideline here and also terminology, how we classify different levels of darkness. Yeah. And that was my hope, that I can transport that to you, that you know better what you're dealing with.
Yeah, it's definitely done that. It's really very informative. Yeah, very informative.
And none of this for you sacred self-healers needs to be scary, guys. That is a form of darkness. Fear is basically the open invitation for darkness. Yeah. Now you can't be over zealous and over estimating and play around with stuff that you don't fully understand. I would not, and I never do recommend this. But it requires training, and these different levels of training are the kinds that I'm trying to provide. All the work that I do, it always needs to be seen as a composition. You can't just look at one thing, because they all serve another. Yes, this is what dispels the fear of darkness, Cindy. Thank you. That's why I do that. But then you still got to know what you're dealing with. And you got to know, how it leads back to you, to your own mindsets, to your own beliefs, to your own projections, to your own delusions. Yeah, so that you can successfully and effectively heal that, and while healing, basically transform that. Anita says it motivates her to change. Hey, this is okay, Anita. And this is something that many of you, those of you who were with me in the energy course, kind of got. You got tools, and you also got a little more reverence. Yeah, a little more fear of these unconscious habits that you have, and that's appropriate, because autopilot is still a big barrier to overcome. Yeah, subconscious, unconscious, autopilot, those are the enemies, guys. And they're not persons or institutions or anything like that. It's not a demon. That is your awareness. Okay, and that doesn't mean that you guys are all bad. No. You could know before. No, exactly, Annette. No, not all spirit beings are dark. That's why I called this unconscious manifestations and not manifestations of dark. Yeah, but you do have spirit beings that are dark, but you also have spirit beings that are light. So without giving them names, which always distracts the mind into mindsets. Yeah, so in this particular talk, I avoided to give these things, these archetypal names. Yeah, there are other talks that I've done, light forces, dark forces, duality of darkness, where angels and demons, where I have given them names. So there already are, if I recall this correctly, 6 hours, 7 hours. There's already 7 hours of workshops that I have recorded for you. Some of them are on my YouTube channel. Some of them are private links there. So you would have to check in the forum, or just email me. I can also put the links. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll put the links in with the recording, with the email that is sent out. There's already a lot of material here on my channels, so to speak, about this. Yeah. Yes, Cindy, everything is truly energy. But there's a hierarchy too. Yes, it's true. All right, folks. It's been lovely. I love the fact that you have so many questions, and your awareness is phenomenal. Okay, so understand that too, that these are now areas that will be difficult for you to discuss with other people because these barriers. Okay. So that doesn't make anybody right or wrong. Neutrality is one of those forces that are, or those powers that are needed, yeah, really to overcome these barriers. You have to let people speak and feel them out, where they're coming from. That's also where your empathy helps you, then it's very easy to identify demons. If you feel, you can feel it right away. It's not hard. And you just show them the finger, or you're just like, whatever, just don't give them attention, because why should they go to you? There is billions of people out there that are yummy self-serve food stores, okay? They don't need to go to you. You're too complicated. So don't be afraid. Yeah, but don't ever lose your reverence, okay, and humbleness, because, you know, you too, I too, me too, can have a bad day, okay? Yeah, so remember that. And that's then when you really look into what conscious manifestation is, it's paying attention, guys. You got to pay attention. Yeah, it's okay to zoom out for a few moments, hours, yeah, but don't let yourself get pulled into delusions of love, or, you know, convictions and beliefs. Be careful. All right, guys, I'm sure we're going to dive deeper into this as we go. You have a wonderful rest of the week, and I talk to you soon.